Welcome to the Chess Nerd YouTube channel, and in this video I want to talk about some other extra rules and moves that you can make in chess. Before that, I want to explain something. In the previous video I said welcome to my WhatsApp channel. The reason is that this channel was mainly in WhatsApp, but because I couldn't upload videos easily, I transposed, or better to say moved, all the data to YouTube. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about some extra moves that you need to play in chess and you need to know about. For example, checks, castles, and what was the other one? En passant. Let's start with further ado. First of all, we're going to talk about checks, okay? I already made the moves. For example, let's say e4, king's pawn opening. He responded with e5, queen to f3, wayward queen attack, and this transposes into a scholar's mate. If you don't know, I'll show you later on in this video. It's a checkmate in 4 moves, and that many of your opponents can fall for if they are beginners, but it's so easy to counter, and if your opponent knows the way, your queen would just be kicked around. So I don't recommend it. But if you're a beginner, it's a completely fine opening. We have, let's say he defended his pawn with d6. This is very uncommon, but I just showed this move to represent a check. White was somehow dumb, and he played it. Actually, it didn't happen in any game. But I just created the position to show how check works. There are 3 ways that black could defend from the check. The first way is to move the king. Okay? Because, look, the queen controlled these squares. So, this square is kind of safe. Can I color it somehow else? Okay. This yellow square is safe, and these red squares are the queen's target, so the king moved there to be safe. We have another way. Let's say he went for check. He can block the queen's path. What do I mean? He can block with the knight, bishop, or queen. Let's say he blocks with the knight. Now the queen is not attacking the king. But again, this is a very dumb way for black to defend. Why? Usually, blocking a check is not a bad idea. But it is bad when that piece can simply be captured. And this is the 3rd way that you can defend a check. And we go to tip number 1. I want you to memorize, or better to say write, or do something with my tips to just memorize what I'm saying, because it really helps you. 90% of the time, maybe even more, you usually have to capture the checking piece if you can. That's usually the best way to defend. So, this is how checks work. Now we're going for castling. Let me again bring a position. The game started e4, e5, knight to f3. And black went knight to c6, bishop to c4, known as the Italian game. Let's say the opponent went for bishop to c5. Okay, castling can happen in almost any opening. This is just a very common example. And white castles. You may think that this move is illegal, but it's not, and it's actually very useful. How does it work? The king moves 2 squares, okay? And the rook simply moves behind it. This is how castling works. Castling can happen at the other side of the board as well. This is called kingside castle because the king is on this side of the board, because we call this side of the board king side. So castling that way is called king side castling. Okay, and we have another way where we can reach castling. on the queen side. This is with d4. Well, again, many openings reach to castling with the queen side. I'm just showing one example. It's the Slav defense. And again, the king moves 2 squares and the rook moves behind it. This is how castling queenside works. Castling queenside is, or kingside, doesn't really matter, has 2 benefits. One, it activates at least one of your rooks, and in some positions it even connects the rooks. And rooks are usually at the corner of the board and they can't be activated too easily. So castling helps the rooks to come into the play. And another benefit, it's that in most openings the centers break open. So your king can be exposed to attack, so you need to keep it safe. And this brings us to tip number 2. Move your king to safety before move 10, if possible. If not, move 15. If even not, then you just want to be checkmated. And the third move I want to talk about is en passant. Okay, how does that happen? Let's say e4 was played. He plays the French defense, e6. Some beginners just advance that pawn. One of my opponents played it. He lost so badly. Let's say the opponent goes for d5. How does en passant happen? En passant is when you have an advanced pawn on the opponent's territory. For white, it would be the 5th rank. For black pieces, it will be the 4th rank. Oh, I learned how to draw red arrows. Red arrows. Why can't I speak English? Okay, and en passant happens like this. Let me erase the arrows. You go slide past that pawn. You go you capture that pawn, but you go 1 square forward. This is how en passant happens. And a long time ago, I thought that you can go for en passant only once in every game, because that's what usually happens, but no, there is no limit for going for en passants. And we're going for some tips. By the way, I taught all the moves that can be made in chess, checks, castles, and en passant. However, I forgot to talk about castling further along because there are some points that you need to know about. Castling. When can't you castle? It's when your king is in check. Okay? When your king is in check, let's say you played the bird's opening, he goes for some dubious move orders, and you played this, your opponent is somehow dumb and plays like that, and you bring your bishop here, okay? Just suppose, this knight wasn't here, just imagine. Sorry, let me change the move order. Let me bring that knight here. This knight was here. Sorry for changing the move orders. I just wanted to give you a better example. Now, white has developed this bishop. Let me draw one of these fancy red arrows. To prepare to castle. Okay? However, black plays check. Okay? Now, the king is under attack. So, the king can move, say here. He can block. Well, this loses a knight. Don't play that if you ever reach to this position. I'm sure you won't. Or he can block like that. But what he can't do is he cannot castle. See? It's illegal. This is the first way where your opponent cannot castle. A second way. Okay? A second way is when the king's path is in check. Okay? the king needs to move 2 squares for castling. Okay? These are the squares the king needs to occupy in order to castle. If one of these 4 squares, okay, if you want to castle queenside, typically these 2 squares. If you want to castle queenside, these red squares. If you want to castle kingside, you have to make sure that these yellow squares are not occupied by an opponent's piece. If so, you have to castle the other way. And if castling kingside, if an opponent's piece is occupying these red squares, then you cannot castle queenside. If both ways are occupied by some piece, if one of these is, if like one of these kingside squares and one of these queenside squares are occupied by an opponent's piece, unfortunately you cannot castle, and you have to do something about it. For example, blocking the opponent's piece's path. Okay? And another way, and another rule when you cannot castle is when, for example, let me just make some random opening moves. You move the rook here, he simply developed, and you move the rook back, he plays d5. Actually, I don't recommend these opening lines, I'm just demonstrating how castling cannot happen. Okay? He develops the knight. I move the rook back, and let's say he plays knight here. Already black is far ahead. He plays, like, say, some dubious move. I develop the bishop. He castles. I develop the knight, and he plays b6. I want to castle, but see, it's illegal. Why? These squares that I talked about are not occupied. Okay? And the king is not in check. So what just happened? Remember this rook? It moved before. Although it's in the starting position, but it moved with 1 square up and came back 1 square. When the rook or the king have already moved, castling is impossible. So you learned 3 other types of moves that can be useful in your chess career. Castling, you should do it in almost any game. On Passant, it's better for you to know about it, but you're not, of course, forced to play it in every game. And we also had checks, which normally happen everywhere.